Well, hello, final expense producers. Welcome into our final expense coaching call. It feels like it's been forever since we've gotten together for a final expense coaching call on a Monday morning. The last time we got together was in March. We took a hiatus in April because that's when we were doing our life and annuity spring sales symposium. So great to see so many of you at that symposium. We had over 125 people registered for that event, and it was a great success, and a lot of it is because of you and the interest that you showed. And I hope that helped I hope that you learned a few things and were able to network and collaborate with some of your other brokers, agents, advisors, whatever you want to call yourself, that you were able to take advantage uh, of that opportunity. It was a great time. So, welcome into our final expense coaching call. Today is Monday, Cinco de Mayo, 2025. So, in this coaching call, I encourage everybody take some notes, grab some coffee, and let's conquer the day. Let's conquer the week. Let's conquer the month. So, we're going to be talking about the final expense architect program and what that entails. We're also going to be talking about this month's topic of conversation, which is going to be mentorship. We've talked in the past that we've been working on a mentorship program, and we have most of the kinks in the chain kind of fixed and ready to go. So we're going to be talking about that today. And we're also going to have our company spotlight, a company that you might want to add to your portfolio and reasons why you might want to add that company to your portfolio, your product offerings. And of course, at the end, we will take all of your questions. For those of you who are new to URL, new to the final expense program, my name is Matt Alina, and I am the manager of the Life Markets division, the Life Markets team. About several months ago, I was just the final expense manager. Now I'm managing the entire department, which is why we don't do these final expense coaching calls on a weekly basis like we used to. So let's jump into today's program. So for those of you who are on the fringes or you're just about to get started in final expense sales, let me introduce you to the Final Expense Architect program. It is a program where you have access to elite level producers that will help you, take you under their wing. You have a proven lead system, whether you want direct mail leads, digital leads, you want compliant turnkey marketing. Maybe you work in the Medicare space or in some other capacity, maybe PNC, and you want to be able to re address or re-engage with those clients that you already have on the books. We have some turnkey programs for that. When you partner with URL, you automatically have access to the top contracts with day one vesting. That means that your clients, your commissions, everything follows you. We don't control that, you do. When you work with URL, you are working with experienced sales and marketing team to help you succeed, to help you grow, to help you take your business to the next level. Final expense is a very simple product to sell in terms of there's not a lot of moving parts. It is not easy to sell. It is not easy to sell. If it was easy, there would be no money to do it, or there would, but it's a product. It's a product line that's a simplified issue whole life policy where there are no medical exams, there's no medical records. Most of the companies are going to give you a day one underwriting decision. When you partner with URL and you partner with these carriers, a lot of these carriers have their own incentive trips. You have access to that. Some of our competitors, when you qualify for that trip, they offer it to us first and give us the right of first refusal. We don't do that. You worked hard, you earned it, it's yours. And we have about 20 or so different final expense companies that you can choose from. And I will tell you right out of the gate, do not get licensed with all 20 of those companies. It's not worth your time. It's not, and you have to get to know and learn all 20 of those companies. So, this month's topic, we're going to be talking about sales mentorship. And you've heard of mentoring, you've heard of people that are mentored and what it's and kind of what that entails. But mentoring is a relationship where a more experienced person kind of takes that person under their wing, and helps to guide a less experienced person with personal and professional growth and development. Some mentors of note, people in history that have been mentored by um, other famous people. Um, if you go back to 400 BC, Socrates was a mentor to Plato. Plato was a mentor to Aristotle. Getting to the 20th and 21st century, Warren Buffett was a mentor to Bill Gates. And the two of them really didn't see eye to eye, but after they met one another, they both cherished each other's feedback, having great conversations. And you know that those two have a lot of money, but a lot of collaboration there as well. For those of you who are Catholics, lost your you just lost your pope. Um, Pope John Paul II was a mentor to Pope Benedict. Pope Benedict was an apprentice, if you will, at the Vatican, and had an opportunity to pick the mind and the brains of Pope John Paul II. Moving back into the business area, Mark Zuckerberg was mentored by Steve Jobs of Apple. And an interesting one that I didn't know was that Henry Ford was an engineer for Thomas Edison.
Wow.
And that is Henry Ford and Thomas Edison lived in Detroit, and Henry Ford was able to have direct access to Thomas Edison. So those are some notable mentors. Now, I'm not saying that the mentor that you have is going to be of Thomas Edison or Steve Jobs, but when it comes to final expense sales, a fantastic mentor that I'd like to introduce you to is um, is is somebody that has been a top salesperson for a couple of years. But why is mentorship important? First and foremost, it's going to help you advance your career. It enables you to share your experiences and best practices. As a mentor to somebody else, you have the ability to also learn as you go, because you are then able to pick the experiences of your mentee to learn from them as well. You are able to enhance your skills by learning from other people's mistakes. It helps maintain accountability. One of the things that I encourage everybody to do is to put together a list of goals and have them written down. We call them SMART goals. When you have those goals, share them with your mentor so that they know where you're going, what you want to accomplish, and they can help you do that. And of course, it also helps build confidence because you're going to see where you started in the industry and where you're going. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our mentor, or who could be your potential mentor. And let's see here. Don, I'm trying to turn on your. Here we go.
Let's go.
Um, Don Grable. So, who is Don Grable? Let me tell you a little bit about what I know about Don. Don was our top life producer for both 2023 and 2024. There's a picture on the slide there of Don receiving his award earlier this year for his 2024 production. And to surprise him and to see the shock and awe, he was also the 2024 Bassiano Award winner. And it was really well deserved. And the thing that you'll find about Don is that he really diversifies what he does. But let's ask Don a few questions here now, before we get into the back into business parts. Don, um, And let me ask you the very first question, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yep. Hello, everybody out there. Yep.
Hello, everybody in TV land.
Yep.
Um, Don, how long? Where are you from? And kind of give us a little bit of a background. And how did you get into the industry?
Yeah. So I'm from Paradise, Pennsylvania. Originally, I was born here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but grew up in the area, mostly in Paradise, Pennsylvania, Amish country, really. Um, and I got field recruited into the insurance business back in 2001. So been at it a while. I was kind of on a little bit of a. I just finished up some college for the spring semester, and had no plans of getting into insurance whatsoever. And actually, my sister was on a field demonstration. She had got field recruited by this company called Combined Insurance Company of America. You may or may not have heard of them. They've been around forever. But I want. She goes, you know what? This isn't really for me, but I think I'll talk to my brother. So, the sales manager there came over and he field recruited me, and I hit it off with the guy really well. And I went in. I met the district manager, and and I was going to school for business administration, and I'm going, what am I going to do? When I get out of school, what I want. And I was really leaning towards sales anyway. My background was mostly restaurant work, and I always enjoyed talking to people and help figure out problems. So I thought, I think I'll and I knew you could make a good income in sales. So I met the district manager. He showed me what folks were making in the area. I said, wow, okay, that's for me. And signed me up. So they sent me off to sales school, and they taught me. That's where I got licensed. They had a whole program where they got you licensed. It was 1 week of license training and then 1 week of product training. And I learned to sell accident and sickness policies door to door, down the street, cold calling all day. And but it was a great introduction to insurance. It really was a great organization to work for and to learn. But back to mentorship, their whole system was based on they had a level. You had a sales manager, district manager, regional manager, and everyone through the organization started as an agent. So everyone had to kind of earn their way up through the organization. But,
so when you were getting recruited and they showed you what everybody was making, with the potential, did you make that?
No, absolutely. No, I wish I had. And Combined was a real tough road to make a living because. So he showed me, the district manager showed me what he was making. And at the time, this was like May, and he showed me he had $120,000 made for the year. And turned out that guy was making about $300,000 a year, most of it in his sleep, just managing a team of about 20 agents. So, no, I didn't make the money I wanted to make. But I had a lot of ups and downs. I got, my third day on the job, I actually got hit by an 18-wheeler, believe it or not, up by Halifax, and was lucky to survive that with no injuries. So it was, for me, I was a young guy, and every time I get rolling, I'd have another setback, or whatever. So, but I never gave up on it. And
So you've been in the industry for, if I'm looking at, if you started in 2001, you've been in the industry, I would say off and on. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
So 24 years, almost 25 years.
Yeah. So it was about 5 to 6 years full time with Combined, and then I'd finally throw in the towel and went back to the restaurant industry for a while, and was working at a country club and got recruited by an agent that Chris Simpson, and that's how I got introduced to URL back in 2011.
What convinced you to come back and throw your towel back into the ring to get back into the industry?
So Chris really, I met Chris golfing on Mondays. It was our day to play, and he knew that I was licensed, and knew that the training that I'd had through Combined could translate to what he was doing. He was building a sales team, but mainly focused on Medicare. So he knew Medicare, he knew life insurance, and he knew annuities. And he was a broker. And I was like, yes, I knew I was missing the boat being a captive agent, and but I didn't jump in right away. I was like, well, hey, no, I'm not. I was a little snake bitten. I was a little, burned. I had a little bit of a tough experience first to go, and I was like, I didn't want to jump in with both feet. And so one AEP, he kept, he was persistent. He was like, hey, when you're ready, just let me know. You get relicensed. I got relicensed, and I said, yeah, I think things cleared up a little bit. I said, yeah, I think I'd like to maybe jump in a little part time as a way to supplement my income. So I did an AEP with him, as a Medicare agent, and got licensed under him, and through URL and some life insurance and annuity carriers.
Yep. Yeah. When I met you, I remember you were still working in the restaurants, and we were talking about the restaurant business and stuff like that. And for those of you that have never worked in the restaurant business, you make money pretty much every night,
Yeah.
tips and stuff like that. So where when you're doing insurance or you're managing a business or whatever, you may not see that paycheck for a week or two.
Right.
So it is a different lifestyle where, you may have $100 in your pocket and you have to say, okay, this is grocery money. This goes to rent. This goes whatever.
Right.
So, but you're getting that money. So it's hard to say, okay, I'm cutting that off and going full time.
Absolutely.
So you've been in the business for just shy of 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
From what I know about Don, Don does life insurance and does it well. Final expense primarily.
Mm-hmm.
He also does penny. He also does annuities, and he also does Medicare. But as we're talking here, a couple of years ago, you and I talked,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you were working somewhere else, getting leads somewhere, and then you contacted me. You wanted to get some information about our final expense program. Let me ask you, first and foremost, why final expense? What drew you to the final expense market?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's kind of how this kind of came about. So, it was during the pandemic. As you mentioned, I was working in the restaurant. So for years, I was working part-time in the restaurant as a server, and I was running Medicare mostly part-time, trying to build that base. It was slow going. I'd get some referrals. I did some stuff with like Walmart, some retail stuff. And what I found with Medicare is, yes, it's great. If you get an Advantage plan first timer, you're making $700 up front. You get a nice residual. What I really liked was the residuals, but it was, with all the compliance, you can't do this. You can't, for me, it was just like, it was hard to, so it was slower than I liked. In other words, the pace for my success was slower than I like, to do it compliantly. And I tried, like I said, a few different, things. And then anyway, during the pandemic, obviously things kind of shut down at the restaurant. I was selling over the phone through something that was something called Assurance. And it wasn't through URL. It was another life insurance sales over the phone. And basically their system, I was licensed in 28 states. It was a whole virtual platform where all the calls came in. You had a computer script that walked you through, and but we were selling term and whole, but mostly it turned out to be final expense. Most of the cases, most times you were talking to someone that was making $10,000 to $15,000 a year, and they were just looking for a small burial policy. But the thing with that is the cancellations. I was their top agent in Pennsylvania for like 9 months. I mean, I was doing really well. I mean, I wrote like 60 policies a month. I think it was like my best month, and I was averaging 10 to 12 policies a week. But the cancellation rate is, your commission. They're taking a big advance of your commission up front. The cancellations were huge, and their system. I didn't like the way their system. They felt like they kind of kept you. It's all automated, so they were really. Right. It was really kind of gimmicky. Anyway, I just kind of, and I got tired. Frankly, I got tired of being in the office all day. To make it work with them, you had to be in the office from basically 8:30 a.m. to 7, 8 o'clock at night. They kept you on the phones. so I learned a lot, and it was good. And then I reached out to Matt. I said, hey, look, I was introduced to Final Expense back in 2011 through Matt, and I tell you guys that was one thing I could do over again. I would have got up and running with Final Expense back in 2011 a lot harder than waiting until 2021 or 2020. That I would have did it all backwards. I would, instead of trying to focus on Medicare, I would have focused on Final Expense and picked up the Medicare secondary. And I guarantee my Medicare book would be probably 3 to 5 times bigger than what it is now. And so that's but bottom line is in 2021 I came to Matt and said, hey, I'm selling over the phone. It's okay, I like it, but it's not, I'd like to do Final Expense in person. And I found out it was a lot easier to do it in person than over the phone, and the rate, it stays a lot better, you get paid a lot better.
Yep. So do you cross sell Final Expense to your Medicare clients and vice versa? Do you
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So I mean, they're the same client. So the same client that might be a Final Expense case is often a Medicare client, can often turn into an annuity client, and you just got to know what questions to ask and how to find those opportunities. But not every Final Expense case is going to be a Medicare client or an annuity client, but there's a good percentage of them that are out there that. But what Final Expense does, and using that lead and going in with that approach, you're going in, with Final Expense compliantly. It opens the door first, and then it creates that relationship, and then it gives you opportunities to get other business.
Now, we were talking, and you were excited because you made a 6-figure income, and it took you a while to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say are some of the keys to your success?
Just well, first of all, obviously the Final Expense Architect program. I can't tell you how thankful I am to URL for having that, because for years, it didn't exist. So when I saw that, I said, man, that's for me. That was the opportunity and the help that I needed to get to advance my business and to get in the activities and get over the hump. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to the activities to get that, to earn that income. And you need that grit. You need to set the goal. You need to to get out there and do it. But you got to have the opportunity to do it as well, and you got to have a little bit of the training wheels, and it takes a little time to develop that. But I think you have in place a system that anybody on this phone call can get on here. I don't care if you've never made a Final Expense sale, or if you made a few, that if you're determined, you can get out there within a year. You can be looking at a 6-figure income.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just up to the individual. It really is.
It's about activities and opportunities. And one of the things that I've learned working with you and working with others is that when you're working with URL, you can lean on us. We'll help you create those opportunities as well. We view it as a partnership and not just say, here are the contracts, here are the carriers, Godspeed, and go make some money. It doesn't work like that. And there's a lot of our competitors that they'll go out there and they'll flaunt those top people, kind of like what you were talking about Combined. And I'm not knocking Combined.
Sure.
But they show the top income earners, and they don't show you, that may be 5% of their sales force. They don't show the other 95% that are struggling
or didn't make it. Yeah.
Yep. And there's so many people that bail out of the industry because they don't have the time. They don't have the fortitude to actually keep going.
Right.
And every no is, you hear, it's cliche, every no is one no closer to a yes.
Yeah.
You hear that when you still have bills coming and everything else, and you see that you're spending the money on leads. With the Final Expense Architect program, folks, we show you how to sell. We have our Final Expense Closers Clinic. We recorded that. It shows you how to book appointments, how to make a compelling presentation, how to come back from those common objections, those rebuttals, and how to get referrals. It's a duplicatable system. Don has followed a duplicatable system. Does he follow it to the letter of the Final Expense Architect program? No, he doesn't. And you're not expected to do that either.
Right.
You're, but you find what works for you and you just keep working at it. And I highly recommend keeping a little journal, keeping notes
Yeah.
so that when you walk away from a sale or you it didn't happen, you can, when it's fresh in your mind, write down what happened. What
Right.
what did you say? What didn't you say? What should you have said? Things like that. Because I'll tell you, the objections that clients have are not new. Most
Right.
people are pre-programmed with those objections. So, Don, let's talk about the mentorship program. When we were developing this mentorship program here at URL, you were the first person that came to my mind, because you've always been so willing to take people's phone calls, take people on ride alongs. And you know what? At this point, because I don't have the time to dedicate 100% of my time to final expense anymore, I need somebody to kind of help me and help other agents out there. So when you work with Don, he's a fantastic mentor. You already heard he's gone through it just like you might be going through it right this very minute. You will, when you go and you mentor with Don, um, and to get access to Don, let me know and I'll introduce the two of you. And he's willing to take you on ride-alongs. And I'm going to tell you, Don will hammer the phones, but sometimes the phones are not his friend. Just like
Right.
the phone is not our friend all the time either. Some people just don't pick up the phone. Um, so,
Most people don't pick up the phone. Let's be
mo-
honest.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what do you do, Don?
I knock. I show up. And that's it. That's the key to the game is show up. That's
Yep,
it.
knock on those
Um,
doors.
that's the key to life. Honestly, I mean, it just show up. I mean,
Just show up.
if you're having a bad day or whatever, you just got to show up, and then that you'll get through it. Yeah.
I had a college professor talking about just showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And he was basically saying, in college you can show up for a lecture, you can show up for class if you want, or you don't have to. Um, and the professor was showing us that every time you don't show up for class, how much money you're basically just throwing away.
Mm-hmm.
When you're with tuition, how much per hour you're throwing away.
Right.
And he said, if you just show up for class, you have about an 80% chance of succeeding and passing the class just by showing up. You could bomb a test or whatever, but just by showing up, you have an 80% survival rate just by showing up. And the
Yeah.
same thing is here. You've heard, everybody's heard of the 80-20 rule. It pretty much pertains to a lot of areas of life.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I know, getting back to our mentorship program, having direct access to Don, you're going to learn what he does to consistently write between $3,000 to $5,000 of annual premium each week in final expense sales. He's done more than that per week. And you can learn how to write that consistently just by showing up. See what Don says. See how Don books appointments. See what he does to get his foot in the door. He's going to be providing you with that personalized sales training. I fully support and expect that Don at some point will be doing regularly scheduled meetings with people that are going to work under him and be mentored by him. And Don, you're not
Yeah.
limited to final expense. You can show
Yeah.
them other
Yeah.
things too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. It's like you said, it's an opportunity for me to learn and also to help other people. I mean, people have helped me tremendously in the business as well. So I feel it's a very important thing to have, and I'm glad to offer and make it available to people. So, Pretty excited about it. Yeah.
Yep. I, I'm excited about it too.
Mhm.
And like I said, I don't think there's anybody better at, because you're very human. Um,
Right.
you don't talk about, you're not somebody that puffs his chest. You're
Yeah.
very humble.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
you're
And like
going
I
on this
said,
trip or that trip and doing this or doing that,
yeah.
and you,
Right.
everybody has their own learning speed. It took you
Sure.
20 years to succeed in this business, and
Right.
you're succeeding and excelling in this business.
Right.
So,
Yeah. You
um,
gotta crawl before you can walk, walk before you can run. It just, everyone's goals are different too. So it depends on what's going on in your life. Your goal might not be to be the top final expense guy. My goal actually was never to be the top final expense guy. My goal is to go out and make the money I want to make, and and learn the business, and do the best that I can do at it. So
right,
it just basically living up to my potential, and doing what I want to do. So um, I think that it's important for other people to to take advantage of the opportunities that are available. So.
absolutely. So, if any of you on the call, anybody that's watching this presentation, if you feel that you need final expense mentoring, here are your next steps. First, you have to take that leap of faith. Just as Don said, you got to crawl before you walk, walk before you run, and take that leap of faith. Partner up with URL, and you'll have direct access to Don. And we're asking that you commit to 6 months minimum of mentoring. You may want to continue that mentorship relationship. It's entirely up to you and entirely up to Don. You'll be a part of Don's team, and you're going to earn while you learn. And you also have access to zero cost leads. What does that mean? Don has he participates in our zero cost lead program. I don't like using the word free because you're giving up something. Don
Mhm.
gives up a little bit of commission in order for us to subsidize and pay for the leads for him. Otherwise, he'd be taking that excess commission and having to buy his own leads. We have lead resources and we buy leads for him. So with that, we would allow you to have access to zero cost leads. Now, what does that mean? There's a little asterisk by there. You probably are squinting to see what the screen says. You are responsible for getting yourself on the scoreboard. Basically, if you buy leads, you buy leads. If you are going to work your other book of business, other lines of business, maybe you do Medicare or PNC, um, whatever it takes to get you on the scoreboard. And then we take a percentage of what you've written each month and buy leads for you at no cost to you. So if you're interested in doing that, please contact me, and we'll get you on to the next steps. Don, is there anything else that you'd like to add about the mentorship program?
No, I just, like I said, I'm excited. Excited to do it. I'm excited to help. I'd like to see some results come out of it. I mean, I'd like to see whoever the next top life producer is going to be. So happy to help anyone get on their way. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Folks, if you're looking for somebody that's humble, that's going to show you and share with you what they've learned over the years, this is a great opportunity for you. He's not somebody that's in your face. He's not going to give you a hard time and say, I already showed you this, or say, oh yeah, yeah, we'll go on a ride along. um, you have access to him. He's not going to blow you off.
yeah. And one thing I would say, Matt, is um, I know when I was sitting on this call before I got to where I am, starting out in final expense, it was hard to kind of put things together a little bit. You have all these questions, all this height, weight. You get confused with underwriting and the mentorship and all that. What Matt's put together with the Closers Clinic and all these meetings that we used to run. Now, like I said, we only run this meeting once a month. Um, we were running them weekly. You learn a lot on those calls. So it's trying to develop more of like a team atmosphere where people, it's not to be competitive, but it's a good atmosphere to help people learn how to do the business and put things together and get started. So
Yep.
It's just going to be a fun learning atmosphere, is what
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the next part of our presentation today, before we take any questions that you have and we can wrap things up here, is this month's company spotlight. This company offers a level and modified benefit whole life policy. The face amounts start at 5,000 and it caps out at 50,000, depending on the age of the client. The really cool thing about this company is that there are no height and weight requirements. So somebody could be 5'5" and 350 pounds, and they can still get a day one benefit. This company also offers paper and digital applications. As the client is paying the premiums, they also have the opportunity to purchase or get a reduced paid up option. So maybe after 10 years or so, they've paid into the policy and they're done with it. They've had enough of it. And they're like, I'm tired of paying premiums. Okay, stop paying the premiums. And now you have a reduced paid up policy. No more premiums are paid. The death benefit, whatever is left or whatever the paid up option is, will pay out the reduced paid up option, and it is a household name. People see this company all the time. Anybody want to take a stab? You can put it in the chat. I'll go down the list here again. Level and modified benefit whole life, final expense. Face amounts from 5,000 to 50,000, depending on the age of the client. Don, good guess, but no.
Ah,
No height and weight requirement.
uh,
Paper and digital applications, reduced paid up option, household name recognition.
hmm.
Um, I'll give everybody a hint. This is going to blow it right out of the
All right.
water. The mascot is a duck.
I know. I thought it was going to be Affleck. Yeah,
Aflac.
that was my second guess. Yeah.
Yep, Aflac. So Aflac, if you're not familiar with it, Aflac has actually built their final expense portfolio around Aetna. So if
Okay.
anybody has seen Aetna, CVS, Aflac has mirrored. They've actually approached Aetna and said, "How do you put together a good final expense program?" And Aflac has kind of mirrored that. And in some situations, their rates are better than Aetna. So when you're dealing with people that really don't know the insurance industry, it's good to have a household name. Aflac is a good company with competitive rates. Again, they do not have a height and weight requirement. Paper or digital applications. It's a company that people are going to recognize because they see it advertised all the time. So, a company you might want to add to your portfolio is Aflac. It doesn't put you in a situation where you have to ask that personal question of what is your height and weight. Don, you
Yeah.
and I have all had to
Oh
ask
yeah.
ladies, what
Yeah.
is your height and weight? And I
Yeah.
hate asking that question.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, so this allows us to not get slapped in the face for asking a personal question. And it really, it just, it does help.
Yeah.
Doesn't put us in that bad, that bad position. So everybody has the opportunity also to connect with other people in the URL Final Expense community on Facebook. Just go to URL's Final Expense community page, and you can request access there, and we'll be happy to get you in connected with other Final Expense producers that are partnered and participating in our Final Expense Architect program. And at this time, if anybody has any questions, now is the time to ask them. Also, while we wait for some questions to come in, um, is if anyone wants to take the next step and get involved in the partnership, feel free to give me a call on my direct line, which is 717 216 8041. 717 216 8041. Don, I'm looking forward to this. And I encourage everybody that's on this call, if you are struggling and you are looking to make some money in this industry, to learn some of the secrets of success and to have direct access to one of URL's top producers, this is a great opportunity. It's not afforded to everybody. Not every department here at URL will let you even have access to some of our top salespeople.
Yeah.
I want everybody on this call to succeed,
Right.
and if there's anything that we can do, please let me know.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity, and I want
It's a
everybody to
great,
take
it's a
advantage.
great way, it's a great way to get into that top producer, a category as well. I mean, it's really can be a huge stepping stone with final expense to get your career, going in other directions too. So,
Right. Yep.
mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, final expense is a great springboard into other opportunities, like you mentioned before, Don,
Right.
from Medicare, possibly even annuities.
Yeah.
Um, and when you help that senior citizen,
Yeah.
now they're going to give access to their family, their
Yeah.
younger family. Now you're helping multiple generations of families. Think
Yeah.
about all the impact that you would have with a family. And all that stuff can be done with your relationship, your partnership with Don, and of course with URL.
Yeah.
So with that, I don't see any questions coming in, and I know it's magic time here in a few minutes. People are going to be making those phone calls, outbound calls, booking up their week. Some of you that are on the sidelines, jump in, folks. The water is warm. It's nice. Come on in and make some money. We're
Yeah.
here to help you with that. Again, my number 717-216-8041, and my email is Matt A, that's MATTA at URLINSgroup.com.